Hey, my name is Jared Moon, and I'm part of a group of underground athletes you've probably never even heard of before. We don't rely on fancy equipment for training, and most of us don't even have gym memberships. In fact, our motivation comes from within. You see, we have jobs, families, and responsibilities, but we still have big goals, and they aren't getting achieved at a global gym. For that reason, we have to do things differently. Our training has to be smarter. We don't have every piece of equipment known to man or a ton of time to train, and we don't need it, because we are achieving amazing things without it. So how do we do it? If you ask your average personal trainer or gym goer, they'd call us crazy. Yet we're seeing results better than most every single day. And it's happening by blending mental training with physical training and becoming an athlete. What we call, and welcome to, Garage Gym Athlete.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. Jared Moon here, and with me is Joe Courtney. What's up, Joe?
Hello.
And we have Ross Brooks. Man, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Nice to talk to you guys today.
Yeah, dude. I'm looking forward to getting into it. We've spoken a few times before, so I'd like to get your story out to the world as one of our Garage Gym Athletes, man. So give me some background, how you're training and what you do for a living, all that good stuff.
Okay. Well, I live in Los Angeles. I'm an actor and a screenwriter for the most part, but I'm also mainly a stay-at-home father. I have two boys that I take care of. One of them is almost 8, and I have a young one who's about 2.5. So that's what I spend most of my time doing. And that's one of the main reasons that I try to work out at home, is because it's really hard to get out when you have a 2-year-old.
Yeah, that could be a challenge. And I think once kids come on board, it's almost like garage gym is just like a must if you want to remain fit. That's what I'm seeing with a lot of people in our community. It's like almost a necessity if you want to have any level of fitness.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. I mean, it's just next to impossible to find the time to go to a gym and deal with all that and daycare at the gym and find enough time to go and come back and do all that and still play with your kids and not neglect them.
Right.
So.
Yeah, we could meet all of our goals and just put the kids off to the side, but who would want to do that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, man. So what's your garage gym setup like? Equipment and space? Los Angeles might be a little bit different than some other areas that we've had on the podcast, so I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, well, actually, I sent Joe a message about this a couple weeks ago when we were talking, because I know he's a Southern California guy too. The weather's nice most of the year, so I actually most of the time work out in a space that I built behind my garage.
Awesome.
I had basically a dog run that wasn't being used for anything, so I built a platform and put some posts around it. So I've got a pull-up bar and a squat station, and then I put a bench and some other stuff out there, and I've kind of made it where it's adaptable. So with a few eye bolts and hooks and springs and clips, I can hang some different stuff, and I can do tricep pulls or rows or any of that kind of stuff like that. So I try to spend as much time as I can working outdoors, just because it's nice, and why wouldn't you? So
yeah, man, that's what, when I was in Texas, I mean, the weather is probably a little bit hotter than SoCal, but yeah, my garage was really just for storage of equipment, and the rest of the time I spent just outside. That's the way to train, in my opinion. As long as you can keep your equipment relatively safe. I mean, I love being outside.
Yeah, I just cart the stuff inside when I'm not using it in the garage, and turn around and take it out a piece at a time, depending on what I need for the day, and then I load it out and load it back in. So,
Joe, what are you doing, man? Like, I know, because you're just like fully outside. I don't even know if you have storage space.
No, it's 100% outside. Because it's behind the house, which is behind the garage. So, but there's no easy access to the garage. We have to go all the way out the front, or a lot of times when it's raining and stuff, I'll bring the barbells just in the back door and my plyo boxes, which can be a pain on those few rainy days. But good thing there's not too many rainy days.
Yeah. Toting around a plyo box is never fun.
We're having some right now, which is the funny part of it. So
yeah, this week every couple of days, so I'm taking the boxes out and the barbells out, and there's been times where I've forgotten, and it's like, oh damn it.
I've left a lot of equipment out in the rain. Luckily, never like my row or anything, but my barbell's been doused more than a few times.
Yeah.
All right, man. So it sounds like mainly due to schedule, but I just want to double check. So what was the main reason you started your garage gym?
Well, like I said, for the most part, I've been working out in my garage in some form for the last 8 or 9 years. I really didn't get into fitness or training of anything until I was in my 30s. I just wasn't something that I spent a lot of time on. But when I did, it made more sense to do it at home. And it largely was because we were expecting our first child, and I knew I was going to be staying home with him. And so I wanted to have some flexibility and to be able to go out there whenever I had the time while he was napping or whatever. So it made the most sense. But since then, I just never really enjoyed going to the gym. You know, like I said, finding the time to get there and the time to come back. And before you know it, it had eaten into your day quite a bit. And I just never really appreciated wasting that extra time when I could just walk right out the door and do it.
And that makes sense, man. So you got into fitness, you said in your 30s? And
yeah, I'm 44.
And so what you weren't pre that you weren't really doing anything, like no fitness routine, no global gym, no nothing?
On and off, I'd done a few things, but it was never something that was really part of my lifestyle. I just either didn't have the time or the money or didn't consider it important, and then realized as I got into my 30s that it was going to matter a lot as I got older.
So is that what kind of spurred it? Because going from really no fitness habits to, and I consider garage gym athletes just a little bit crazier, a little bit more dedicated than most people, even though like it is a convenience thing most of the time, like having to train alone, take on a lot like form issues and all that stuff. So, you know, what was the spur to like, you know what, I'm going to start taking health and fitness seriously? Like what really got you going in that direction?
My son, really, my first son. When I knew he was coming, then I knew I really needed to start taking care of myself because I was going to be an older father and I didn't want to be broken down and unable to do anything with him when he was at the age where to do those things. You know, it just suddenly became important when I realized like, oh, I want to live as long as I can. And this is one of the best ways to ensure that I'll be around to see him grow up and become, you know, a successful man in his own right and have his own kids. And I want to be a healthy grandfather. I want to be around for a long time. So, yeah, that was more than anything.
That's awesome, dude. That's really cool. All right. So how do you like it overall, training in your garage or outside, should I say?
I love it. I love it, really. Like I said, I never really enjoyed going to the gym and having to wait on equipment to be free or anything like that. And I know exactly what I'm getting into. I know I'm familiar with the stuff that I have. And I'm a fairly introverted guy to begin with. And I love being able to have time to myself where I'm focusing on just what I'm doing. You know, and so really training by myself is great because there are no distractions for the most part. I get to focus exactly on me, and that's good time for me.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. Have you found any struggle staying focused out, like training by yourself?
Sometimes it depends on. There are days when I get sidetracked when something comes up. Either I have to deal with one or both of the kids, an issue with one of them. Like I've lost some days this week because my youngest son is sick, and it's a lot harder to get anything done when he needs attention. You know, so it's easy to lose focus sometimes, especially if I normally work out kind of late morning. Mm-hmm. Like I would probably normally be right in the middle of a workout about right now. You know, and sometimes if I miss that window, then there are things that need to get done in the day, and then the time's gone.
Right.
So that's a challenge, but I really try to devote that first time to myself when I can, and try to stay on it. So, yeah, it's just like anything. Time management is difficult for anybody, but I'm doing my best. You know, that's all I can do.
Hey man, it sounds like you're doing a good job. I just always curious. Everyone has their own struggle. That's a big one for me. Is the time slot. If I miss my dedicated time slot for when I normally train, it's like some of the times I can get it done, but normally once family starts hitting hard towards the end of the day, you can't really pull yourself and like, no, I'm going to go train. So it's either going to be late night or something like that. And those training sessions, to be honest, are the hardest for me. I can get them done, but like my intensity level is like next to nothing just at the end of the day.
Yeah, and if I do manage to do it too late, normally I get too wired, and then I'm up too late at night, and then it throws off the next day too. You know, so I really try to to stick to that schedule. And we're creatures of habit. You know, human beings are creatures of habit, and our bodies respond to those habits. And so you're pumped for it and prepped for it if you're going to do it in the window when you're supposed to do it. And then after that, then your body is like, well, we're not doing that now. So it's harder to find the energy and the focus and push yourself as hard as you'd like to sometimes.
For sure, man. All right, dude, what's the hardest workout you've ever done?
The hardest workout I've ever done. Let's see. I have to say right now that I'm finding anything to do with Murph is a real challenge.
Yeah.
You wouldn't when I first heard of Murph years ago and all this, when I first heard about CrossFit, I really didn't. I guess I didn't think that, that doesn't sound like it'd be too hard. But then once you really start getting all that volume into it, I still have not been able to get anywhere near completing one. You know, the best I've done is about halfway there.
Yeah.
And that's just because I'm not ready for it yet. But it kicks your butt, man.
And what do you find to be your limiting factor when you start to tackle that workout?
Pull-ups largely.
Yeah.
I've been back and forth on my ability to do pull-ups. I was better at them a few years ago. Like in my late 30s when I first started doing this, pull-ups came pretty quickly, even though I'd never done them. But then literally once I hit 40, they got a lot harder. You know, your body starts to change, and now suddenly pull-ups are much more difficult than they used to be. So I'm trying to find a way to focus more time on getting better at those, you know. But yeah, pull-ups knock me down every time.
Yeah, and that's a tough workout to be practicing pull-ups in with so much volume in every other area.
Yeah.
Is it hilly where you live?
Yes, it is. I live in the foothills, Glendale foothills, Verdugo foothills. So I'm kind of I'm in a valley between two mountains. My backyard has a little bit of a slope to it. That's not the worst, but yeah, you can see the mountains in both directions from where we are. I'm about 1,700 feet above sea level. I am.
And so what's the running like when you have to go out on runs?
Well, running is not that bad on my street because my street kind of runs east-west and it's flat. So my running on my street is not that bad. And I've got a decent, pretty set 1 mile strip from block to block where I live. So it's really easy to keep track of how I run. Running's not my favorite thing. I've got knee issues and sometimes it messes me up. So I did buy a rower for my birthday. I see him. This is my son.
What's his name?
He says hi. This is Duncan.
Duncan. Hey, Duncan.
Yeah. You say hi?
I press the button.
Yeah, you can't press the button. It'll hang.
That's what. Anytime my kid finds my laptop, my kids find my laptop. It's like, what can we press? And I mean,
absolutely.
Didn't they get a hold of your internet once too? Your router?
Like in the middle of a podcast, probably. Yeah, that's definitely happened.
Yeah. So I haven't been running lately. You and I talked a few months ago, and right around November on my birthday, I used some birthday money to buy a rower to take some of the pressure off my legs and my feet, and that's been good. It's been really good. It's made a huge difference in how I feel. Although the rower presents its own challenges, and just knowing this, he's like, man, this is a lot harder than I really expected it.
Right. There's no hiding
But
on
I
a rower.
appreciate that because I feel like I'm working at it. You know, I'm really trying to earn it. So
Yeah. I mean, in your opinion, what's the best?
It's on top bar list. But since we can run outside all the time, I've never really been much of a runner, so it's a struggle for me.
Well, that's what we have a 1.5 mile time trial coming up in the programming, and I can't run. I can't run a realistic time trial at my house. Like I could run 1.5 miles, but it's gonna be like a 1.5 minutes slower than normal because there's so many hills and mountains around where I live. I'm gonna have to drive out to somewhere. That's why I was curious about your situation, and I think Joe's somewhat similar. Like if I was to ask Joe to do a 1.5 mile time trial, he couldn't get from his street couldn't get a most realistic or fastest time that he could probably produce otherwise.
Yeah, I live down 2 dead-end streets, all of which just keep going farther and farther down. So in order to run, I have to run out of the hill completely. And then it kind of flattens out, but there's still hilly areas. So I'd have to walk to a new part of the neighborhood and make my own track randomly.
No, I've been pretty lucky on that. It was, like I said, I have a great strip I can measure a half mile or a mile on pretty simply. So when I do need to do that, then I know what I need to do, and it's pretty simple, and I can just walk outside and do it. So
That's
okay,
awesome.
yeah.
All right, man. In your opinion, what's the best activity for building mental toughness?
The best activity I've had for building mental toughness in the last several years is getting up in the morning with my children. I'm not a morning guy, so that's been a huge adjustment for me. I was used to staying up till 12, 1, 2 o'clock at night and getting up later in the day, but these guys have their schedule, and you got to do it, and you got to stay focused on it. And my oldest son is in second grade, so the last 3 years have been, you got to be up at 6:30 because everybody eats breakfast, and you got to make lunch.
Right.
You got to get him to school, then you got to focus on all that, and all that has to happen in my day before I get to the workout. So I think that's a great focus in a lot of ways.
Oh yeah, man. That's yeah. Joe, are you a morning person or not? Well,
I am, and I'm not. Like we definitely always wake up pretty early. Even on the weekends, we're up by 7. We try and sleep in, depending on what we're doing. But it's kind of like we get up, we have coffee, and we enjoy the morning. I've always liked the sunrise and stuff, but as far as waking up, putting on my workout shoes, and going to work out, not completely so much.
yeah. I'm just always curious. I have a lot of friends who aren't morning people, and some who are. Me personally, like I'm not a night person. I can't really. My head starts nodding off at like 8 p.m. I can, it's hard for me to stay awake past a certain hour. So yeah, that's interesting, man. So what did you find any big shift like when you had to make that shift from being like a night owl and sleeping a little bit later to now with your kids? Did that like energy wise like take a big hit, or is it really just the willpower thing?
When my first son was born, I was getting up at about 5:30 in the morning because I wanted to get a workout in before he got up and the day started. And that was really, really challenging because I was groggy. And the only way I could do it in that situation was just like you were talking about, Joe, is this idea where I've just got to get up and go to it. Because I couldn't get up any earlier to sit and have coffee for half an hour because I would just be angry that I was up that early. So I would just dive into it and do it. And that was always kind of the best way for me to do anything, was to just dive into it. Because once I was doing it, I was fine, Energy wise, like I said, I think I've gotten used to it to some degree, but still some days it's really tough to get up because I still don't go to sleep normally before 11:30 or 12 at night. My clock doesn't seem to work that way. So if I have a rough night where like this little guy wakes up in the middle of the night, you got to deal with him for a while. Sometimes I'm up for a while in the middle of the night, and then that makes for a challenging morning too. But they need what they need, so you got to do it. So
yeah,
So I still manage to try to squeeze in my workouts when that happens. But
yeah, my kids have gone through some weird sleep cycles to where my answer is normally just I'll just wake up earlier. And then it got to a point where I'm like, well, you can't really waking up be earlier than 4 a.m. is kind of ridiculous. And just because they were getting to these crazy like early wake up times for a while, and so yeah, it's hard with kids. All right, man. If you could only have one piece of equipment to train with for the rest of your life, what would it be?
I think gymnastic rings.
Okay.
Because they're pretty versatile. You can do lots of things with them, and I
like it.
I love not only the versatility and flexibility of it, but I also like the fact that I've always loved watching gymnastics on the Olympics. It's my favorite part of the Olympics, and watching what those guys can do with their bodies, and it's something to aspire to. And the idea that you can just do that yourself, moving your body through space, is always an amazing thing to me when you have that kind of control over it. And so that's something I would aspire to at some point in my life, if I could ever do it, is just to be able to do some of the things those guys do. I'm not going to hold an iron cross. I'm not going to do any of that kind of stuff. I'm probably too old for that. I've missed my window. But you can take them with you places, or TRX straps, a similar function to that. But be able to take those things and hang them across a door, and you can still do your rows and your bicep curls, or you can find a place to get them over a tree and do some things that way. I just think they're really flexible, and they require more strength than you realize, all those little stabilizer muscles and all that. So they really make you stronger and fitter across the board, which improves everything else, you know. So I think that's really great. And it's just fun. I love on the rings.
I think that's a great answer.
That was I think I was alone for that with that answer for a very long time because I used to do the rings a lot and travel and whatnot. What would be a piece of equipment that would be at the top of your wish list if you could have?
If I could have another piece of equipment right now, what do I want? I have a pretty low end rower, but I wish it would do more. I wouldn't mind getting the Concept 2 at some point if someone were just to hand it to me. I don't know if I could afford. I don't know if I could ever justify the expense for one, but that would be a nice piece of equipment. And I don't know, a better bar at some point. I have a really low end bar right now too, and I'm always. It has, you know, the nuts on it that tells you how cheap it is. But it was a good place to start for me because I'm not lifting that much weight at the moment anyway.
Right, it's functional.
It does what I need it to do for the time being, and at some point when I get stronger, I'll upgrade and do a better job with that. But tightening those nuts is a pain, and keeping track of all that. You know, not right now. Nice. Okay, in a minute. So yeah. I'd like to upgrade some equipment at some point. I think I'd like a set of adjustable dumbbells for some different things. I don't have the space really in my garage for a rack of, you know, 5 increment dumbbells, but I love the idea of like the Bowflex adjustable ones that just take up one square foot and they're out of the way. Those would be handy.
I got my eye on some of those as well. That's I got my eye on a lot of equipment right now. It's
That wasn't even the first two that you mentioned earlier.
No, I need to get a GHD and I need a new Airdyne, and then I get some dumbbells. But all right, dude. So over to you. Best advice for all the garage gym athletes out there listening right now.
Best advice I can say is pay attention to your body. If it's telling you that something is too much on that day, then don't push it. You know, don't take chances because you can get hurt too easy.
Okay.
Especially when you're dealing with a really heavy weight, and I think that's it more than anything. Pay attention, know your limits, and know when to push them, and know when today's the day to back off.
Awesome, man. Love it. Well, I appreciate your time, and thank you so much for being on the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast.
My pleasure. Great to talk to you guys.